So now you're a New England Patriot. You know, the first guy I want to ask you about, and you've touched on it a little bit, your roommate, Darryl Stingley.
Darryl was, as well, all the other players were handing me their lunch thing and say, here, boy, son, Russ, Kahuna, whatever they wanted to call me, Pineapple Head, take my lunch plate back. And I would take their lunch plate and then drop it. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. So-and-so and so-and-so. And then the extra hits on the field. Darryl was the guy that said, just relax. You know, they're testing you. I said, really? This is a test? So one day he comes up to me and goes, hey, listen, I just got to tell you, it just happened. The team had a meeting. The rookies weren't invited. He said the team just voted you in as the player representative. You know, sort of a union rep type of thing. The NFL Players Association. And I said, well, gee, the guys are really starting to like me now, aren't they? And he had a real sorry, painful look on his face. He said, the reason they voted you in is that management normally fires that guy. They're doing everything they can to get you off the field. And, of course, that went away, and just wonderful, wonderful friends. Steve Grogan and I both thought were gone. We'd come in the same year. He was a 9th-round draft pick out of Kansas. And but Darryl Stingley was my true mentor when it came to football, as was Ray Perkins, and Red Miller for blocking. But when you're rooming with a guy in camp, you're having lunch with him, you're having breakfast and dinner and everything else, and you're traveling with him on the road during the season. I'd have questions about the game plan, and I'd have lots of questions about the audibles and how we're supposed to adjust when an audible is made, and reading coverages and everything else. Darryl was just a scholar and like a professor. And so the day that he was hurt in a preseason game, August of 1978, was a very, very painful day. But and I was the first guy to him on the field because we were running adjoining crossing patterns, and I saw the ball go to him, and he went up for it, and he came down, and he was hit and paralyzed. I don't even mention the guy's name because he's gone, and I'm not regretting that he's left, but unfortunately took away a large part of Darryl's life. But what Darryl did was he turned it once he got off a life support system, which was over a year. It took a year. He told me one time, he said, Russ, we're all handicapped in one way or another. He said, so I'm going to do everything I can to help others and to be positive. And we were jointly honorary co-chairmen of the National Spinal Cord Injury Foundation for a number of years, teaming up with Nick Bonaconti's son, who ran the Bonaconti Foundation. He was paralyzed, paraplegic. Darryl was a quadriplegic. But he lived it full, and we took him up on a glider in Hawaii. We did all kinds of fun stuff together. He was a true gentleman and a true sportsman.
You become a New England Patriot in 75. 76, all of a sudden, Chuck Fairbanks has you guys in the playoffs, 11-3. And, man, you guys are so talented. Top to bottom, you guys are loaded. That year you draft the future Hall of Famer cornerback Mike Haynes.
Mike Haynes was a phenomenal addition to a team that was already starting to Chuck Fairbanks and the other coaching staff. I mean, it was a fantastic, every single one of those coaches, Ray Perkins, Red Miller, Charlie Sanders, Hank Bullock, they all became head coaches around the league. And Sam Weish, he was in San Francisco, but that type of program that Bill Walsh put together, people talk about Sam Weish, Denny Green, and all the others. That Chuck Fairbanks staff with the Patriots in the 70s versus those teams I was talking about with Sam and Bill Walsh in the 80s was truly ahead of its time. And so it was a combination of players. Remember, too, though, Brad, the year before my rookie year, 1975, and I always took a lot of responsibility for this and felt bad about it, our record was 3-11. It was the first time in NFL history that a team did a turnaround like that in one season and came back 11-3. So that was because of Mike Haynes, because of Tim Fox on the other side as a free safety, Prentice McRae, strong safety, Tim McGuire and others. It was just Steve Nelson, middle linebacker, Steve Zabel on the outside, King on the other, Julius Adams, Tony McGee, not Dwayne Borg, he was 49ers. Just an incredible defense, and then the offensive line. Shelby Jordan was the right tackle. He's one of the best players I've ever played with. 6'7", 290 pounds, and not an ounce of fat on him. And then Leon Gray, one of my true favorite guys who's since left the planet. Shelby's doing great in Southern California. Leon left us early for a number of reasons, but he and John Hanna on the left side has often been called the best left side in NFL history. John Hanna from Alabama, just a phenomenal. But the work ethic among all those guys I've just mentioned was second to none. They came back from that 3-11. A lot of teams could have lowered their heads and everything else. Of course, Chuck Fairbanks wouldn't allow any of that, nor would Ray Perkins or any of the other guys. But we came back with a vengeance. And when they signed Mike Haynes and we saw what he could do on the field, he returned kickoffs for touchdowns, punts for touchdowns. And finally somebody said, do you really want to risk a guy of this ability and talent? So he focused on, the corner. And I don't know of anybody, and I mean anybody, who ever had a good game against Mike Haynes. I know there's nobody that ever had a great game. So that's the definition as far as I'm concerned. On a long and storied all-pro career, Mike Haynes is one of the best. And again, and this is all important, too, when we talk about football players, because, a lot of people compare us to the Neolithic knuckle draggers and everything else, low foreheads and lots of hair going between the eyebrows. Nothing wrong with people out there that have that, because we have a lot of guys that played. But Mike Haynes was a gentleman, and they were just dedicated to the game. It was nothing about me. It was not the me generation yet. And I'm sure every generation has a portion that they can say is a me generation. But, Mike Haynes was something special. And then he went on to work, very academic, went in to work for the NFL office for many, many years and helped the players after his career as a player. So, very special guy.
Yeah, definitely one of the good guys that are out there.